Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here Devahuti is putting forth further question, an interesting question. She's asking the Lord Kapila to explain the relationship of the Prakriti with that of the Purusha. The Purusha here is addressed as the Supreme Person. Prakritehe Purushasyapi Lakshanam Purushottama. Lord Kapila is addressed as Purushottama, and she is asking Prakritehe Purushasyapi Lakshanam. Please explain the characteristics of the Prakriti and that of the Purusha. Bruhi karunahar asya sadasat cha yadatmakam. Bruhi means she is inquiring. Please explain. Karunaya rasya sadasat cha yadatmakam. Both are karanaya. Both the Prakriti and Purusha, she is aware that both of these means Prakriti and the Purusha are karanaya asya. They are the cause of both sat asat yadatmakam. They are the cause of both the manifest and unmanifestation within this creation. And we have been seeing Lord Kapila also very nicely, systematically explaining before this. And answer to this question will be a very interesting thing to understand, because this will bring a very much clarity on the position of the living entities, the position of the Prakriti, the material nature, and the relationship of the material nature and the Supreme Lord. It will help us to know that how the Supreme Lord is supreme in any situation. Because sometimes Supreme Lord also comes to this material world, this manifested world. Just like the living entities also come to this material world. And answer to this question will bring a very much clarity on the understanding of the position of the Supreme Lord with respect to specifically the material nature. And so far Lord Kapila has been explaining the position of the Supreme Lord. He began with explaining the position of the Supreme Lord. Then he also explained how the Lord accepts the material nature, how he accepts the energies as a pastime within this creation. And in the previous few verses, Kapila also explained that how the living entities come under the control of the material nature, and how it is suffering or enjoying because of its own actions, because of its own desire to lord over the material nature. And here Devahuti is addressing the Lord as Purushottama. This is very much important. The Vedic literatures explain the concept of Purusha, Prakriti very vividly, and here also we have been seeing that. Purusha means we know that one who is the real enjoyer is a Purusha. In Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna defines Purusha as means one who enjoys. Bhoktaha. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhoktaram yagna tapasa. Bhoktaram means one who is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices, all the results of any actions. So, real Purusha means he is a real original benefactor of all the sacrifices that is being done. And Supreme Lord is the only enjoyer in this creation. But sometimes the living entities who come to this material world, they are also addressed as Purusha. And sometimes the same living entity is also addressed as Prakriti also. Right? Prakriti means it is an energy of the Lord, and Lord has multiple diverse energy. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. So Lord has many diverse energies which work according to His directions and which perfectly works as per the desire of the Lord. And living entity is also a Prakriti. It is also by nature Prakriti. Bhagavad Gita also defines how the living entity is a Prakriti. Can anyone remember? Sorry? That is the Prakriti. Viddhime para. Aparayam itastu anya. Viddhime prakritim para. Krishna says there is another energy which is superior to, which has been explained so far. Krishna explains about the Binna Prakriti Ashtada, Bhumi Rapo Anala Vayu. After explaining these things, Krishna says there is another energy, please know that, which is superior to all these so far explained. But although it is superior, what it is doing? Jiva Bhuta Mahabhaho Yayedham Dharyate. Jiva Bhuta Mahabhaho. It is trying to enjoy this material world. So the original nature of the living entity is actually it is the energy of the Lord, and energy means it is supposed to assist or serve the energetic. But when it comes to this material world, it doesn't come like a Prakriti, in the nature of Prakriti. It comes with the nature of the Purusha. It falsely accepts the role of a Purusha. Purusha means enjoyer. And that's how Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, where the Purusha, the Prakriti, is falsely trying to become like Purusha and trying to enjoying that which is created in this material nature. Purushaha Prakritistohi Bhungte Prakriti Jan Guna. Prakritistaha. It is situated in Prakriti, this material nature. And Bhungte Prakriti Jan. It is trying to enjoy whatever everything is created by the material nature in this cosmos. It is thinking that this all is for my enjoyment. And that's why this Prakriti, this living entity, which is Apara, which is actually Parashakti, by superior by nature, and material energy is Apara Shakti. It's an inferior energy, although it is inferior, and the living entity is supposed to be superior, but because it comes with the spirit of enjoying in this world, so it comes with the bhavana as if he is a Purusha. And that's how sometimes the living entities are also addressed as Purusha in the terms that it has come to this material world with the intention of enjoying. So, in that way, the living entities are also addressed as Purusha. But living entities, although they are addressed as Purusha, they are not on the same level of the original Purusha. who also comes to this material world. The Vedic literatures describe three kinds of Purushas. The Vedic literature describes three kinds of Purushas. Anyone? Purusha, three kinds of Purusha, three types of Purusha. The first Purusha is Uttama Purusha, and Madhyama Purusha, and last is Adhama Purusha. The living entities are addressed as, although sometimes Purusha, but it means that the living entity is Adhama Purusha. Adhama means one who has fallen down to this material world by its own desire, by its own wish. Ichcha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. By its own desire, a desire to enjoy this material world. And it will have to face the brunt of experiencing the sukha and dukkha. That's what is explained in the previous verse. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. How is it causing himself? Because of the desire. Because the desire is, I want to enjoy. And dvesha means, why only Lord has to enjoy? That is the dvesha. That we see in this material world also. If we see someone possessing something better than what I possess, we always feel that kind of enviness, that why he is only possessing. I also want to possess, and I also feel that I am also equally competent to possess those things. So it is by own wish and will, living entity comes here with the spirit of enjoyment, but it has to experience all the happiness and distress. Dvandva mohena bharata. This happiness and distress is dvandva. So that's why the Purusha, the living entity, is known as Adhama Purusha, which is also known as Nitya Baddha. Nitya Baddha means always entangled in this material world. But there are also living entities in the spiritual world who are known as Nitya Siddhas. Nitya Siddhas, they don't come to this material world. They don't enter in this material world like how the Adhama Purushas enter. Prabhupada gives a very nice example from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Just like there are fish living in the ocean also. Like fish live in the river also. Right? But fish which is living in the ocean, they don't enter the river. But the fish in the river sometimes they go back to the ocean, they enter the ocean. But we don't see a fish in the river or a fish in the ocean trying to enter the river. So Nitya Siddhas are personalities who don't come to this material world. Or when they come, they don't get disturbed or they don't get entangled by the material nature. That is the position of the Nitya Siddhas, and such kind of the ratio of such kind of living entities is more than the Nitya Baddhas. Right? Prabhupada gives the example of the prison house and the residents living in the city, the citizens living in the city and the prisoners in the prison house. The population in prison house is very insignificant compared to the population in the city. Right? So that is the natural understanding. So that is how the living entities are addressed as Adhama Purusha. And the another Purusha is the Madhyama Purusha. What is the Madhyama Purusha? The Super Soul is known as the Madhyama Purusha. Super Soul also resides in this material world along with the Adhama Purusha, but they both are not again on the same level. So the Madhyama Purusha acts as a friend of the Adhama Purusha and living in the same species, living in the same body and acting as Upadrishta and Anumanta. trying to sanction whatever the desires the living entity is wanting to fulfill, and also constantly witnessing. The Vedic literature gives an analogy of two birds in the tree. One bird is trying to enjoy the fruits, another bird is observing and waiting when this bird will look at me and try to realize that actually you should be now following me. So that is a position of the Madhyama Purusha. And the last Purusha is the Uttama Purusha. Uttama Purusha, he is superior to the super soul and also superior to the Adhama Purushas also. Right? And he never gets entangled by the material nature. He is always aloof from the influence of the material nature, although he also enters this material world. And that's what is being questioned by Mother Devavati, that she has understood so far the relationship of the living entities with the material nature. And she has understood the position of the material nature. Now she is asking, what is the relationship between the Prakriti and the Purusha, the Purushottama? Because the living entity, the position of the living entity is not the same as that of the Purusha and Prakriti. In the beginning, Lord Kapila very nicely, systematically already established the position of the Purushottama. Kapila Muni mentioned the Supreme Lord, who is as a Purusha, as Anadir. This is a symptom of a Purusha. Purusha means he has to have these qualities. Uttama Purusha is supposed to, so he should be having these qualities. Anadir Atma Purusho Nirgunaha Prakrite Paraha. He is Anadir. He is having no origin. He is without a beginning. Atma Purusha means he is a super soul. And Nirgunaha. Nirguna means one who is not affected by the material nature or the modes of material nature. And Prakrite Paraha. He is transcendental. He is superior to the material energy. Pratyak Dhama Swayam Jyotir. Pratyak Dhama means he is perceivable everywhere and he is self-effulgent. So this is the wonderful quality of the Purushottama, which Lord Kapila already explained. And further he also explained that Lord accepts the material energy for the sake of pastime while he is in this material world. So this material world is a pastime of the Lord. It's a Leela of the Lord. He has not created this material world. He has created this material world so that the living entities who have the desire to lord over the material nature, they are given an opportunity to try to their best and realize that one day that actually I am not the position. I am not a Purusha. I am not an enjar. I am actually supposed to be serving as an energy of the Lord. So that is the pastime of the Lord. And the Lord also further explained that how the Prakriti is superior even to the living entities. And here Devahuti is questioning that how is exactly the Purusha and Prakriti are situated. Prabhupada explains this with a very nice, interesting example. Prabhupada compares the Prakriti to a woman who has two roles to play. Prakriti is related actually both to the Supreme Lord and also to the living entity. Both Purusha and both living entity, both are known as Purusha. They both come to this material world. Both are not on the same level. And the material nature has a relationship with both the living entity and the Supreme Lord. Just like a woman has two roles to play in a family life. As a wife, she is being controlled by the husband. And as a mother, she controls her children. And just like similarly, the material nature is acting as a via media between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. She is controlled by the Supreme Lord and she controls the living entities within this creation. And Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada also quotes the verse in a Bhagavad Gita which says that the Lord impregnates the mother nature, impregnates the living entities in the womb of the mother nature. Can anyone say what is that verse? Sorry? There is one more verse very much connected to this. Impregnates. Krishna says that Tasam Brahma Mahadyoniraham Bija Pradapitaha. He impregnates the seed of living entity, the living entities in the Mahadyonir, in the womb of the material nature. The material nature is considered as Mahadyoni. Mahad means very vast, so vast that unlimited living entities can be impregnated within this creation. Innumerable living entities can be impregnated. So, Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradapitaha. So he is a seed-giving father who impregnates the living entities within the womb of this material nature. And the material nature, its position is that it is always controlled by the Supreme Lord. Although the living entities are controlled by the material nature, but Lord does not come under the control of the material nature. On the contrary, she is always controlled by the Supreme Lord. That's why the living entities are known as Anu and Lord is known as Vibhu. Anu means is minute. So his position is that he is always a subordinate in nature. And Vibhu means one who is superior. One who is always controlling, one who always have control over his energies, his prakriti. But sometimes people may falsely think that we can control this material nature. Just like the scientists, they try to control this material nature in various ways. But in reality, that's why the material nature is addressed as Duratyaya. Daiviyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Dhuratyaya. Dhuratyaya means one who is very difficult to control. Living entities cannot attempt, they may try to attempt, but they can never be successful in controlling the material nature. Although the scientists may be trying their best to control. So that's what we can see, that although the living entities and the Prakriti both are energies of the Lord, but they are not on the same level. Nor the living entities can exercise their control over the material nature. That's what we can try to see from these descriptions. And neither the living entities, although they are addressed as Purusha, Lord also is addressed as Purusha, it doesn't mean that they have come on the same level. The Mayavadis, they consider that they can't comprehend that Supreme Lord is a person. So they consider the living entity and the Supreme Lord, they are on the same level. So Bhagavatam explains that those who consider the living entities and the Lord on the same level, not understanding that Lord is actually superior in nature and living entities are always the subordinate in nature to that of the nature of the Lord, they are considered as Avishuddha Buddhaya. Avishuddha Buddhaya means one whose intelligence is impure, or one who doesn't have proper intelligence. And he doesn't have proper intelligence because he has not surrendered to the Lord. He is not surrendered to the Lord. So long one was not surrendered to the Lord, his intelligence is always stolen by ignorance. And Lord says that I am reserved to those who are not intelligent, those who don't surrender to me, for I am not open to reveal myself. For them, they have to get qualified, and the qualification is one should exercise, one should take up the process of devotional service. So the Adhama Purushas can become or change their nature, their understanding of enjoying this nature only by the process of devotional service. In no other process they can fine-tune this consciousness. In the karma process, nor in the jnana or in the yoga process, they can't establish their position as the Purusha, or they can't establish the position as the Prakriti. In the process of karma, he always thinks that how can I enjoy this world? How can I transfer myself to the heavenly planets? The purpose is again to enjoy this world. In the process of jnana, he thinks how can I merge with the Lord? Again to enjoy this world. And in the process of yoga, he considers how can I assimilate, how can I capture or perfect myself in various kind of siddhas, so that I can exhibit my superiority over others. So in any other process, it is the process, the understanding or the spirit is of only to enjoy. So long this spirit of enjoyment is there, one cannot understand the Lord, and they are called as Avishuddha Buddhayaha. It is only in the process of devotional service actually one can again establish the original position as servant of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Ainanda Kinkara Patitam. The mood of being a Kinkara, the servant of the Lord, is what will make one qualified to understand the Lord, not in any other process. So that is what we try to understand here, how the Lord is superior in all his position. And the living entities have a fair chance to also establish their lost consciousness depending on what is the state of consciousness they are living here. Prabhupada gives an example of the fire and a spark. The spark, when it falls down, being separated from the fire, it can, based on how it is falling down, it has its opportunity to restore itself as a part of the fire. A fire, when it falls on the grass, there is a fair chance that it can again ignite back the quality of a fire, right? And the same fire, when it falls on the ground, everything is the potency of the fire in the spark is covered up. And the spark of the fire, when it falls inside the water, then it is completely extinguished. Then it is fully lost. So similarly, if the living entities remain in the mode of sattva guna, then there is a fair chance that the living entities can re-establish its lost consciousness. And the same living entity, when it is falling under the category of the rajoguna, its intelligence is covered up. And it's quite difficult that how it can, on its own strength, cannot come to its lost consciousness. And if the living entity falls under the category of the ignorance, then totally there is no chance of recovering to its lost consciousness. So the only possibility of restoring that consciousness is by taking up to the process of devotional service. And that's why we see here, Mother Devoti her questions are very much important for us to understand that how the Supreme Lord is supreme in all the circumstances and he is above the material nature. And the answers further which Kapila Muni gives is very important for us to understand that how the Bhagavatam establishes the superior nature of the absolute truth. Yeah? We'll end here. Then Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki.